What if I told you that they used 5 different Ramchargers in Lone Wolf McQuade? Or how about the fact that the Ramcharger's engine produced only 180 horsepower, so there was no possible way it could dig through dirt? And probably most shocking of all is that the movie helped sell the trucks. Speaking of which, Lone Wolf McQuade helped Dodge. In fact, just 2 years after the movie was released, the Dodge Ramcharger became a cult classic. Because everyone wanted to buy it and be like Chuck Norris, the sales for the Ramcharger peaked in 1985 with 37,055 units sold in total that year. But soon after, everything changed. Sales began to smash that like button, just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, sales began to slump and drop to 20,815 produced just 1 year later. Compared to the 37,310 Chevy Blazers and 57,488 Ford Broncos, that was a shameful drop. They used 5 Ramchargers. They used far more Ramchargers than anyone realized. In fact, most fans don't know that 5 different trucks were cycled through production to bring McQuade's iconic ride to life. And people barely noticed because the trucks were nearly identical, at least at first glance. But look closer. Ever notice how the Ramcharger sometimes has a sunroof, then suddenly it doesn't? Or how the fog lights mysteriously change shape between scenes? Those tiny inconsistencies became a treasure hunt for fans who froze frames, compared screenshots, and argued across forums for years. And the biggest debate of all, what year was the truck actually from? For the longest time, everyone swore it had to be a 1983 model. But when the movie was released in HD, the body lines, trim pieces, and even the grille pattern all matched the 1981 W150 Royal SE, not 1983. The Ramcharger wasn't a 1983 model. For the longest time, there was a debate about what year the truck was actually from. Even loyal fans swore that it had to be a 1983 model. But when the movie was released in HD, the body lines, trim pieces, and even the grille pattern all matched the 1981 W150 Royal SE, not 1983. And that's not the only confusion. Some people don't know that this was a second-generation Ramcharger. McQuade's drove the second generation. McQuade wasn't just driving any old SUV, he was behind the wheel of a true second-generation Ramcharger, the version built from 1981 all the way to 1993. And if you know your Mopar history, that timeline matters. The first generation launched back in 1974, but the 81 redesign gave the truck the tougher, squared-off look we see in the movie. It was built on a shortened Dodge D-Series pickup chassis, which gave it that classic full-size stance but with tighter, more agile proportions. And here's something fun to think about. This thing was Dodge's answer to the Ford Bronco and Chevy K5 Blazer, the two giants of the SUV world at the time. So imagine those three battling it out on 1980s trails. Who would you bet on? After 1993, the Ramcharger disappeared in the US, but Mexico kept it alive until 1996. It might not have been too long, but it was long enough for clean examples today to hit $20,000, with pristine survivors topping $30,000. And Dodge even gave it a brief comeback from 1999 to 2001, building around 30,000 more. Only for Mexico, the Ramcharger had a twin. What if I told you that McQuade's Ramcharger actually had a sibling? However, this one was practically erased from automotive memory. It was called the Plymouth Trail Duster, built from 1974 to 1981, and it was Plymouth's one and only attempt at jumping into the SUV market. And how did they do it? By taking the Dodge Ramcharger, swapping some trim pieces, and calling it their own. That's right, they used the same frame, same engines, same removable roof in the early years, just a different badge. But because the Trail Duster's production run stopped in '81, while the Ramcharger kept going for another decade, these Plymouth versions are far rarer today. Clean examples often push $30,000, and pristine ones climb even higher. But no one really knows what happened to the actual on-screen Ramchargers. The Ramchargers disappeared. To this day, nobody knows what happened to the actual Ramchargers used during filming. There are no studio records, no auction listings, no behind-the-scenes logs, nothing. And considering how brutally these trucks were used in the movie, the most logical guess is that many didn't survive. Think about it. Off-road chases, jumps, dirt pit scenes, stunt impacts. Those Ramchargers weren't exactly treated gently. Most were probably parted out or crushed once filming wrapped. But here's where things get interesting. Every once in a while, fans wonder if one slipped through the cracks. Could a beat-up old '81 Ramcharger sitting behind a barn in Texas secretly be McQuade's? Has someone been driving a screen-used truck for decades without realizing its history? So far, nothing has surfaced in the collector world. But there's still hope. After all, barn finds happen every year. Who knows what's waiting to be discovered? For example, Chrysler just revived the Ramcharger name. Chrysler revived Ramcharger in 2025. It's funny how Hollywood nostalgia works, right? Just when you think a name is gone forever, Chrysler brings it roaring back in a way nobody expected. The 2025 Ramcharger returned, but not as a boxy SUV like the one McQuade punished on screen, but as one of the most advanced trucks on the road. It uses a 92 kilowatt-hour battery that feeds the motors, but a 130 kilowatt generator, driven by a 3.6-liter Pentastar V6, steps in to keep everything charged. It produces 663 horsepower, 615 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds, and up to 690 miles of range. Can you imagine telling McQuade his future Ramcharger would outrun sports cars while humming quietly in EV mode? Complete movie magic. Name me something more iconic than that massive supercharger jutting out of the Ramcharger's hood. It's a mechanical monster that looks ready to inhale the desert. However, it was pure movie magic. That blower wasn't functional, and in some shots, the close-ups weren't even filmed on the same truck. If you freeze frame carefully, you can literally see the differences. None of the production Ramchargers had engine mods of any kind. No upgraded internals, no boosted horsepower, nothing. And yet, in the movie, McQuade flicks a switch and the blower suddenly comes alive. Can a real root-style supercharger be switched on like a desk lamp? Chuck Norris built the myth of the everyone remembers the scene where McQuade and his Ramcharger are buried deep in a dirt pit, the kind of trap that should end the movie right there. But instead of panicking, he cracks open a beer, screams from the bottom of his lungs, slams the throttle, and somehow the truck roars back to life and blasts its way out. Now, let's be honest for a second. Could any real SUV, especially one making around 170 to 180 horsepower, pull itself out of several feet of packed dirt? Not a chance. No amount of yelling, courage, or beer-powered determination would overcome that physics problem. But that's exactly the charm of this movie. It embraces Chuck Norris's larger-than-life persona and mixes in just enough exaggerated magic to make you wonder, wait, could he actually pull that off? But now you're probably confused, thinking that the Ramcharger couldn't possibly have produced only 180 horsepower. Well, the engine wasn't powerful. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like the video so far. McQuade's Ramcharger wasn't hiding some wild stunt engine or secret performance build. Under the hood, every truck used in filming ran completely stock, carbureted V8s, either the classic 318 or the beefier 360. And when I say beefier, I mean barely. The 318 made about 170 horsepower, and the 360 squeezed out roughly 180. Not exactly earth-shattering numbers, right? Especially when the movie makes the Ramcharger look like it could outrun a helicopter and drag mountains out of the way. Both engines were paired with simple 3-speed manuals or automatics, the same setups you'd find on a regular 80s farm truck. So how did they make it look so unstoppable? That's the magic of editing. And don't forget Chuck Norris. But one thing was real. These engines were legendary for their durability. They weren't fast, but they were almost impossible to kill. And for such a legendary truck, you'd think that there would be thousands of replicas out there, because who wouldn't want to drive a Chuck Norris Ramcharger? The reality, however, is quite different. Few replicas. Built for a movie car this recognizable, you'd expect to see replica builds everywhere. But dig around online and almost nothing. Full-size recreations are surprisingly rare, and that's odd, because building one isn't some impossible restoration project. If you can track down a second-generation Ramcharger, something from the early 80s in decent shape, you're already halfway there. From there, it's simple movie car cosplay. Throw on a set of black 8-spoke wheels, wrap them in chunky off-road tires, bolt a push bar to the front, add a pair of lights, and top it with a roof-mounted bar. Toss on those iconic Texas Ranger decals and boom, you've basically recreated McQuade's ride. The only catch? Some of those accessories can get you into trouble on public roads, so fans usually make them removable. Maybe that's why most people stick to small-scale replicas instead. They're cheaper, and they won't get you pulled over. There's no Ramcharger museum. You won't find it in any museum. The handful of fan-built replicas that have appeared are scattered, hidden, and almost impossible to track down. You don't just stumble upon them at any car show. Unless you know the collector or the exact event, you'll probably miss them entirely. Replicas are impossible to find. If you've ever wanted a model of McQuade's Ramcharger, good luck finding one. Lone Wolf McQuade was a low-budget film, so there was never any official merchandise released. That means there are no second-generation Ramcharger kits on the retail market today. Sure, you might find a few first-generation kits floating around, but they're rare, overpriced, and don't really capture the look of the movie truck. The one semi-accurate option is a 1/43 scale 1991 Ramcharger diecast by DOC, which you can usually track down on eBay for around $60. But even that isn't perfect. It requires modifications to resemble McQuade's boxy early 80s ride. Thanks for watching. Here's another video car enthusiasts loved watching.